Move your legs up. Move your fucking legs up.
No, I don't want to have.
I don't give a f what you want.
Mason.
Shut up.
January 30th, 2022. 21-year-old Harriet Robson has just erased Mason Greenwood from football history, or so people thought. In an on-again, off-again relationship with Greenwood for a while, no one, except her close family, knew what Robson was going through. The disturbing audio, photos, and videos shared by the young woman took the world by storm. A few hours later, Robson, either willingly or forcefully, deleted every single hair-raising post she shared, but it was already too late. Greater Manchester Police said it was aware of images and videos circulating on social media, and shortly after, Greenwood was taken into custody for assault. That was just the tip of the iceberg. The following day, the police were granted further time to question Greenwood, who was now suspected of assault and threatening to kill a woman. January 31st, 2022. It's 6 in the morning. Harriet Robson's father, Alan, has just found out about what has happened to his daughter. A few hours later, he's talking to a journalist from the Daily Mail, and even though he says that, it's dreadful, and you don't want to know things like that happening to your daughter. People can't come to terms with how little concern the father has for his daughter. Adding insult to injury is his take on Greenwood, how he's like a member of their family, how very much in love they were, and also his initial reaction, telling Harriet to delete the evidence she shared online. According to Alan Robson, Harriet told them that her phone was hacked, and she never wanted to share what she did. A strange turn of events, considering she had started sharing the disturbing evidence with a caption that read, "To everyone who wants to know what Mason Greenwood actually does to me." It's as if not everyone wanted to know what Greenwood was doing, and then there were people who simply didn't care. Every piece of content shared by Harriet Robson was disturbing, to say the least. The young woman was seen with bruises on various parts of her body, and her face was covered in blood in more than one image. At first, there was no mystery nor ambiguity about the nature of her outcry. But then, there was nothing but. That late January day in 2022, Greater Manchester Police never openly stated Mason Greenwood's name after the troubling evidence surfaced online and even after his arrest. But any chance of the 20-year-old staying anonymous was out of the window, mainly because Harriet Robson was pretty clear about her accusations, which immediately turned into a viral wildfire, and also because Manchester United quickly followed up on the news with a statement, "Mason Greenwood will not return to training or play matches until further notice." This was the first official move made by Man United after Greenwood's arrest, but it wasn't to be the last. And in hindsight, it was the least controversial move by the Red Devils on the matter. Video game franchises were quicker and more firm than Man United in their reaction, as Greenwood was immediately erased from video games, FIFA 22 of EA Sports and eFootball of Konami. The following day, on the 31st of January, another firm reaction followed, but it wasn't from the club but by Greenwood's official outfitter, Nike. "We have suspended our relationship with Mason Greenwood. We are deeply concerned by the disturbing allegations and will continue to closely monitor the situation. What happened on the 30th of January was concerning enough. Unfortunately, the worst was yet to come." The day following Nike's announcement, Greenwood was further arrested on suspicion of assault and threats to kill, and Greater Manchester Police was granted more time to speak to the young footballer. By that time, Harriet Robson had already deleted her Instagram account along with all the evidence she previously shared on the platform. On February 2nd, Greenwood was released on bail pending further investigation, and anyone who was even remotely interested in the recent developments knew that further investigations were bound to be long and complicated. Around the same time, interim manager Ralph Rangnick was trying to keep his squad focused and stay as far away from the troubling news as possible. When asked whether or not they had a difficult few days lately, the German manager said, "Obviously, it was a topic within the team, but they're human beings and Mason was part of the group before we had our break. The group was going to miss Mason a lot more in the future." 2 weeks later, with the Crown Prosecution Service officially charging Greenwood with attempted engaging in controlling and coercive behavior and assault occasioning actual bodily harm. There was no doubt that Geenwood was going to be well away from football for quite a while. That assumption held true for some time, but no one could have guessed what was about to happen next. 11 months after his initial arrest, Mason Geenwood finally appeared on court in November 2022. He was still suspended by Man United, but the club was paying his £75,000 per week salary. Sacking the player would mean a breach of presumption of innocence by Man United's part, and due to agreements between Premier League clubs and Professional Footballers Association, PFA, signed back in 2003, it wasn't possible for any club to suspend a player for more than 14 days. So Man United, at least on paper, had no other choice but to keep on paying Geenwood. On November 21st, a trial date was set for November 2023. That meant the rising star of Man United and one of England's finest young talents was to be away from the game at least for one more year. And then the whole story took an unexpected turn. On February 2nd, 2023, exactly 1 year after Geenwood was arrested on suspicion of assault and threats to kill, mind you, all charges against him were dropped after the Crown Prosecution Service announced that key witnesses withdrew their involvement from the case and new material came to light. Having denied every charge made against him from the very first day, Mason Geenwood, through a spokesperson, made his first and to this day last statement on the process. "I am relieved that this matter is now over, and I would like to thank my family, loved ones and friends for their support." The case was closed, both for the Crown Prosecution Service and Geenwood. But Manchester United wasn't done yet. They still had an incredibly high-value asset in their hands, and they didn't know what to do with it. Legally speaking, Geenwood was innocent. There was no longer a complaint against him, and the evidence of his vile acts were no longer available. Excluding thousands of accounts reposting Harriet Robson's photos, videos, and voice recordings regularly, of course. The club announced that it'd be running an internal process to determine the future of the player, and that alone was enough for hundreds of thousands of fans to rip the board to bits. In early 2023, there was no legal reason why Man United could not bring Geenwood back. If it was only a question about his footballing ability and potential, it would be wise to reintegrate him immediately. But in the eyes of fans, there was just no way for him to wear the United jersey ever again. Under these circumstances, United's internal process commenced, a process where the club used its limited powers of investigation and were unable to access certain evidence, as it was revealed in an open letter by United's chief executive Richard Arnold. Despite recognizing these limitations, 6 months later, the club released a statement and asserted that their young forward did not carry out the crimes he was charged with. Thanks to The Athletic, before the said statement, it was revealed that the board forced its hand to reintegrate Geenwood into the squad, albeit strong resistance from both inside and outside the club. Like the one from the newly established fan group, Female Fans Against Greenwood's Return, the association, which was understandably concerned about the way Man United board was trying to handle the situation, released a statement just before United's season opener. The situation is clear. Taking Geenwood back legitimizes and normalizes assault and domestic abuse. It tells other players and the men and boys that look up to them that abusing women is acceptable without consequence and won't affect you or derail your career. When the internal process finally drew to a close, United decided to part ways with Mason Geenwood, thanks in large part to huge criticism coming their way. But the statement made on the occasion clearly left the door halfway open for the 21-year-old's eventual return. All those involved, including Mason, recognized the difficulties with him recommencing his career at Manchester United. It has therefore been mutually agreed that it would be most appropriate for him to do so away from Old Trafford, and we will now work with Mason to achieve that outcome. As it's clearly indicated, it was not possible for Geenwood to recommence his career at United, but the statement doesn't say anything about Geenwood getting back to Old Trafford one day. And as of today, that day is the end of the current season, where Greenwood's loan deal at Getafe will end. The same deal where the large majority of the 21-year-old salary is still being paid by Manchester United.